In this video, we will see how we can simulate JavaScript style async awaits in Golang. So I have created a function async which would take another function, and the function's nature is simple. This function would not accept any arguments or return anything, and the task function I'm talking about, and this async function will return a pointer to a wait group. So on line number 44 I have created a wait group, and on the line number 46 I am adding 1 to the wait group, and I'm executing this task inside a go routine, and when this task is done I am calling the done method of this wait group, and I'm returning the pointer to the wait group, right? So when this function is getting executed, this part we can highlight. So what will happen, I'm adding 1 to the wait group. This part is a non-blocking code, as we are running this inside a go routine, and we are immediately returning the address of wait group, right? So later what we can do, we can wait on this wait group, and the wait will be done only when this line is executed, right? Okay, so now to test this I have written a fetch user id from db function, which would simulate like if we are passing user id in this function, and it would find the user from a database and then return the user. So I have added a time.sleep to simulate the processing time of fetching a user, and in the end I'm returning a user, right? And user has two fields, name and id. So the name is randomly generated and we have a id. Okay, now we can go to the main function. So here what I have done, I have to compute the execution time of this main function, I have added a start time here, and at the end of this function I'm calculating the elapsed time and printing it. So here I have defined two user IDs, user1 and user2, and what we will do with this IDs, we will pass this user ID in this function to fetch user1 and user2, and if there are any errors we are handling these error one by one, and later I am printing user1 and user2, right? So now let's try to run this thing. Now here we can see both these calls are blocking calls, and we can see I have added a sleep of 1 second in the fetch user from db, so the execution time would be around 2 seconds, 1 second for this call and another one for this. So now I'm trying to run this and the execution time would be around 2 seconds. So I have two users, user1 and user2, and execution time is 2 seconds. Now if we use this function, so what we can do, we can fetch those two users, user1 and user2, parallelly, and the execution time would be close to 1 second. So I will remove this line, and okay, I will uncomment this part. One second. Okay, so I have removed the old code, and here we are using the async function. So we did remember this async function takes a task which is a simple function, right? So this is the function we have defined just here, and we are calling the fetch user from db inside this function, right? And this function will actually be a closure, will have the value of this from the outer scope. So this will act as a closure function, right? And we have defined user1 and error1 here, and these values will be used here. So I have defined the async function in such a way so that we can pass we can call any type of function inside this function, right? So that's why this function is not taking any arguments and returning any arguments. Okay, so here I have called the fetch user from database, and the another function, the another call for this user will execute on the main thread. So both this and this will run concurrently, and now when both these are finished, like this line would be like only be this step, I mean we can only go inside this if statement if this line is executed. So I'm waiting on this task which this async function has returned, and now I'm checking the error one and printing the error one if we have an error, and similarly with the error 2, and now I'm printing the user 1 and user 2, and just like before I'm again going to print the elapsed time. Now we will try to run this thing again, and now you can see the execution time is around 1 second, and still we have fetched both the users. right? So this thing is both of these calls are running concurrently, this one on a separate go routine and this one on the main go routine concurrently.